So we're going to have a conversation about Kenya's retail sector, all right? And especially when you're looking at the big retailers in the country. We know that the retail business in the country, we've asked ourselves these questions many times before here, CT. I mean, this business model, especially the way it operates in Kenya, we see companies that come from other countries, they come and set up here, and within a short time they move. We see companies that are indigenous, they operate, they thrive, but at some point issues happen. But you still see companies that do very, very well, right? And those that do well, at the point when they're doing well, it's always important to find out, okay, so what is it that you're doing that's making your business thrive?
But more importantly, you see, there is the presumption that when certain activities are seen in the public domain, they indicate that the company is doing well. For instance, when an organization has many branches and keeps expanding, or when they employ many people, or when they advertise a great deal. Now, the question that perhaps I would like to ask is, what is it that really indicates this doing well? What is it that would demarcate? What is it that would guarantee or ascertain that an organization or this type of business is actually doing well? What is it? Because the argument...
Apart from the bottom line.
Well, yes. Because you see, the assumption is you expand because there is a demand. That is understandable.
Yep.
Okay. But then it is also assumed that because you're meeting a demand, then you ought to make more. All right? What in essence I'm asking, is this really true? Is that the case? Or are the expansions speculative? Is it in anticipation of something that might happen, you then expand?
It's like reading the market.
Yes, you figure...
This is going to happen, so I want to be there. I want to position myself there.
Yes.
Or by virtue of the fact that others may have left, you see that as an opportunity to stamp your authority to make sure that nobody fills in those spaces. I mean, to gain some kind of monopoly on the market is also an option that many people would take. Because you could see that from what you're saying, they could be doing very well. And if anybody would look at it and say, okay, well, stick with what you have and continue to profit from what you have.
Right.
But then at the same time, if there there's an exit, you might then say, you know what, rather than have somebody else come and fill in, let's spread this profit making that we are having at the moment.
But then there's also the composition of that particular business. There's what we, the public, think is the composition of it and how it actually functions. And then there's how it really functions. Sometimes it's in the way it is structured and set up. The structure itself may have a flaw. And when we see the organization sort of like beginning to dim and the lights beginning to go off, maybe the structure begins crumbling. So this thing that you thought was good and excellent and safe never really was. There was an appearance of it. So the crumbling is now the reality of what it actually was. Yes.
Okay. So we're going to have a lot of these conversations in this hour. We'll be speaking with Willy Kimani. Willy is the Chief Commercial Officer of Naivas. Now, you see, Naivas has been on an expansion drive, right? And even looking this new swanky with wood branding, it looks quite nice. First time I saw it, I was like, what's coming up here? And then I saw it's Naivas. What is it? Naivas Food Store? Is that it?
Food market.
Food market, Naivas Food Market. And it was looking very, very good. So let's just seek to understand all that business. Willy Kimani joins us on the line. Good morning, Willy.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Very
well, thank you.
Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you so much. Interesting listening to the way everybody presents the question. It's very interesting when you find people who haven't been in the detail, as we say, retail is detail, trying to explain it all. Yeah, it's and I hope within the hour we'll be able to explain much more our plans and also maybe industry-wise.
Very good, and that's why actually we are glad that you've joined us. Let's start with Naivas, and now Naivas is operating currently in the market. How many stores do you currently have? And because Naivas is now being billed as the largest supermarket retail chain in the country.
Yeah, we now have 69 stores. We just opened the 69th one at Rongai. We expect to have the 70th by the end of the year. And to put this into perspective, I'll have to put it, we are only 33% of the market share, which is modern trade market share. So you have what you call general trade, and then you have modern trade. And the split between modern trade and general trade is 70-30. So out of that 30% pie, we are 34%. So that makes us quite a significant player within the market, and technically the number one retailer.
So when you talk about
both
size,
numbers of outlets and revenue.
Just explain a little bit, Willy. When you talk about size, what are you looking at? Are you looking at the volume of the business that you do? Are you just walk us through the details of what determines size in this line of business?
Yeah, well, size, to be honest, it's not the number of stores. Size is about how much market share you have as far as sales are concerned. So you might actually find that there's someone who has only 8 stores, but they're actually doing way much better than someone who has almost 20-something stores. You get so at the end of the day, it's all about how much volume that you're pushing, specific, and the key one that we actually track is on the FMCG goods, which gives you more of a like-for-like perspective.
And how are you doing, Willy? When we're looking at Naivas now, because you're saying, okay, here we are 69 stores, soon to be 70 around the country. And then you also say that it's possible somebody could have 5 to 8 stores and then control the market. How are you doing?
Absolutely. We're doing quite well. I believe we are market leaders, not by chance. Our belief is, one, of course, yes, the market, for lack of another word, has misbehaved.
You want to explain this misbehavior?
This is centric to ever since when we have had 2 big players now who initially were, remember the Nakuma time, the Chumi time, and then of course now we have the current scenario ongoing. During those times, we had a new norm. We had a way where things used to work. And there are some people, and retail trade was actually more specific, tied to how person A, person B was doing things. And Naivas did things differently. Naivas approached it in a very different angle. We never went to the very, very, very big stores. We went centric to the customer. We actually made sure, if you all remember the Julie Shoro days, you're always cheaper there. That never saves you money. Being more centric with the customers. Ensured we paid our suppliers on time. And this is actually paying now. Ever since, if you ever asked any supplier, they will always tell you, Naivas is the best paymaster. Naivas is the best paymaster. All these things coming in, whereby the shareholders were not getting off the chunk out.
Okay.
They're actually reinvesting back into the business. And that reinvestment is now paying back. And let me put it into context. 70 stores, if I can use 70 stores, is nothing compared to the 3,800 that ShopRite commands. As in, it's nothing. As in, we are way far off. And 70% as a 33% player, yet almost 70-something% is not yet modernized. Just go towards Kangore, there's no supermarket. Go towards Moyale, there's no supermarket. Go towards the western side. There's no major supermarket. It's still on general trade. So there's a lot of room for expansion. There's room for it, but the key issue is how we do it. And of course, the discipline around it. If you go and just start checking some of the stretches and you see how many more there are and all that, yet the opportunity lies with actually getting the right location, the right place, and if it doesn't work, shut it down. And that's our mantra. At the end of the day, we have 8,000 plus workforce. We have to make sure that they're actually well accommodated. We have to make sure that there's growth for them. They're growing within their careers. They're growing within the income they actually get, because anyway, inflation keeps on coming up and all those things, and it will always be actually an upside on the core side of them. So we also have to make sure that at one particular point we grow the pie. And of course, like for like numbers, at times you'll definitely find your branch will actually go and get to a place and to plus 2. And at that particular point, you need to then open another store to be able to actually still continue growing. Not only because, remember, rent is escalating, employee cost is definitely going up.
Sure.
All these things, Kenya Power will not also
wait for you.
Be kind to you.
But really, as you say this, right? And we can't stop. I mean, I'll speak personally, but then quite for a number of people, we've heard this chatter around that the heart is in the mouth for you. Because if we've seen what has happened with other stores when expansion took place like this rapidly, and I hear what you're saying, whereby you're looking at other retail chains who have huge numbers around the world. But we saw this kind of expansion, and then shortly after we saw the exit of some retail chains in the country. Is there that danger? Does that danger lurk now here for this expansion that we're seeing for Naivas?
I think the key word here is, are you having an informed expansion or you're just having an expansion without making sense? How many stores that you have are profitable? So nobody will actually ever say, within our journey to date, yes, we are 70 stores, but you've actually shut 5 stores in the last around 4 years. Nobody talks about that. And why did we shut those stores? And how did we shut them down? You know, we did make sure the employees are okay. If you go to Kitengela, you notice there's a store that we actually shut down there. If you go to Ngong, you notice there's a store. In Makongeni, we shut one. In Githongori, we shut a store. Main reason here, what we look at is not our overall pie. It is every unit to make sense.
Okay.
So if a unit does not make sense, then it doesn't fit in. And so how will you know whether a unit makes sense? You have to operate it. You have to have. And so do you have the capacity to actually open new stores? Yes, we do. We have talent now. There's a lot of talent in the market. We have to keep on growing that. And again, at the same time, the agenda for build Kenya, buy Kenya will never be there, but unless there is an outlet for those products. So we're actually serving another bigger purpose, which is actually within the whole Kenyan agenda of actually making sure that things actually grow. So it's not about just opening stores. It's about opening the right stores at the right time and continuing to monitor stores such that if the store is not profitable, then you actually make a call on that store. And I'm happy that out of the 69 stores we're actually talking about, all my stores are actually profitable. There's one on my watch list, and if it doesn't perform, I will also shut it down.
What is it that makes let's look at the stores that you've already shut down. What are some of the factors that led to them not being profitable?
In most cases, you'll actually find it's the promise of an area to grow, and it doesn't hit that particular prospect. And at the same time, also you might also be having a very small store, and a larger competitor comes in and sets up a very well-endowed, big whole setup. And of course, it makes your store no longer have the number that's actually served. So what do? You now go restructure and come back in style. And that's, for example, in what we did in Thika. We are way back in Thika, Makongeni area, in a big bang. When another small actually opened, we had to actually shut down our small store because it was no longer making sense. It was way further off. We're not having the foot traffic in. But now, okay, here it is. We have another chance. Availability next to the foot traffic, parking ample. We go back there and we actually make the call. Rather than us holding on to, we have to have 75 stores and one store is actually not making sense.
Yeah.
It just goes off. It's the same thing, just like a team. I'm an ex-rugby player, and one of the key things you'll actually notice is in the rack, one person is actually making sure that you're always being pushed. You just get the guy off, and you bring in the new guy. That's the whole idea. That's our mantra. If the site is not working, just shut it down, re-strategize, make the store work. If you don't get the right location, get the right location. Yeah. Because you're saving the people who actually, because it's not only, you see, how we operate is not, we look at the person who is dependent on Naivas, the supermarket, internally now, right now. There's an employee who is actually there. They have left their kids at home. The kid, there's a nanny there who is also depending on that particular work. The nanny probably also has employed another nanny in the role of privilege to look at the kids. So it's a whole ecosystem when you're actually saying this store is not well managed or it should be how managed.
If you look at how the consumer behaves, and this is a consumer behavior, like you just said, over 75% goes to the general trader, and then the what you're calling the modern trade, which is now the supermarkets, have what, the other 25%, or is it 30%?
Yeah, so the general trade is bigger. Funny enough, Kenya is the second most organized modern trade after South Africa. And South Africa is actually the opposite. It's a 60-40 split.
So what is it that makes this person come from general to go and shop in the supermarket? Because I'm assuming that the person who buys in the supermarket does not also goes to the general trader. What will compel somebody to come into the supermarket today and then tomorrow go to their local store?
The key word, of course, first of all, is what is near me. Convenience is actually the first. It's a first line of defense. I mean, as long as you're living in this particular apartment block or an estate, and you want bread and milk, if there's a supermarket nearby, you must probably buy from there. But even then, you'll definitely buy from the kiosk that is actually there. But you'll make your end month shopping, where you're buying your variety. It's cheaper, of course, to buy in modern trade, and you of course have real much. Once the variety part of it, one-stop shop. That's why modern trade actually will definitely continue to flourish. You see, you want to choose between your best brand of maize flour, not just one maize flour. You in the kiosk, you'll actually most probably have the best deal that we had from the wholesaler.
Yeah.
So you will only buy that particular brand that is there. You used to buying a fresh fry and you wanted golden fry. That's another whole different question. So you only have to buy that. In the supermarket, we're giving you the range. And everybody competes to get the best that is actually there.
So from your observation, from across the 70 stores, the 69 that you already have so far, on average, how many times does one shopper get into a supermarket in a month?
On average, 4 times.
That's like once a week.
Yes, once a week.
But is this person likely to be going to another shop within the month? And how many times?
Most probably, yes. Most probably, and especially for the less formal areas, up country especially, you notice what people do in up country. They come into the urban areas and then they go back and disperse back. So they'll only come there to do their shopping, their banking, the market, and all those other things. So the immediate buying, in case of anything, they definitely buy in the GT side.
And the average amount that they will spend in that trip?
It of course not. The spending depends with particular stores.
Right.
I have stores that have an average of 800, and some stores up to 2,800, and some even higher than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So COVID-19 came this year and kind of blew things up. But we still see that the expansion took place for Naivas even during this time. I mean, a number of stores did open up even during this period. How have you been able to deal with that? We saw many companies laying off staff and trying to restructure here and there. How were you affected by this?
The first initial wave of COVID, the first time COVID was announced in Kenya, guys got scared. You remember, guys did a lot of panic buying. Guys went bought all the soaps and tissue and what. But at the end of the day, what happened is people had one particular bar soap. You're not going to use it and shower and say, this is my normal bar soap, and then this is another one for COVID. So the guys just had extra. It was actually pantry loading. So in the pantries they had a lot of food and a lot of items, and so we actually saw a dip immediately after.
Right.
But after that, the market was kind of resilient. The Kenyan resilience, actually, you have to give it up to. And I remember we had a very heated board meeting whereby we decided to keep our Westland store 24 hours to serve the essential service providers. We never shut down that store. And to be honest, the Kenyans picked up on it, and that store has been completely successful within the 24-hour environment. The doctors, the cops, and everybody, guys, most of the essential service providers had somewhere to shop. So we actually made a good call then. We after that, we now had to work. We saw things are not so bad and we have now stores that were operating more hours. We have more staff within. We definitely are going to make sure we keep our employees. As management, by the way, we actually took a pay cut, and we did not affect our people in the branch level because we wanted to support them, because we believe and we know that by supporting them is going to be important to actually just get the workforce up and ready. And one of the best ways was we had stores that were ready to be open. So we opened our first store, which was Mountain View. during COVID. We then opened Kimani during the same period. Again, we went and opened in Kisumu, Mega City, and all these are actually food markets. We opened Airport View. It's been what we can actually call one of the best times. Opening lifestyle, it's worked for us. And then, of course, within a market and environment where things were not seemingly the best, we actually put our foot up. And we also made another big issue, which was we did not up our prices. We made sure, even with the inflation that was there, we cushioned our customers. And I'm sure it's in the public domain, and you actually love this. We have also an equity partner by the name Amephis. And Amephis came in kind of strong. They have helped us to give us guidance also in this. We have international help and guidance on best food forward. I can actually say it's not only being number one, it's also being well governed. Having proper governance at the top of it, having guys behind you, the IMF and all these other guys, it's not an easy feat. And especially for Kenyan outfit. And to actually come and say, hey, guess what, guys? We believe in the current management. We want that management to continue going on, and this is how we're going to do it. So it's been a very challenging moment, but we actually wore a brave face, and to be honest, it's paying off.
Willy, Kenyans look to the brand as a Kenyan. It's a Kenyan brand. It's a Kenyan outfit, and are willing, basically hoping that it continues to strive to reach these excellence levels that you're talking about. What do you think needs to absolutely be done so that we are not counting losses in the future? Because, again, the jitters are real for people to say that the economic situation is not the best. And even as things are looking good as you have painted them, the worry still is there. What needs to happen to make sure that Naivas doesn't go down this rabbit hole?
One, I think the first and foremost thing Kenyans need to do is support Kenyans. We guys have nowhere to go to. We saw that some guys, we had other people from other markets coming in, and they're back to Zimbabwe, they're back to where you guys have nowhere to go to. You probably just ditch me back to Nakuru. So it's in our nature. We all definitely have to support the Kenyan businesses. We have to make sure that we actually, one of what, patronize them, and we make sure we correct and make sure we give us pressure and to actually basically to perform. On our end, getting corporate governance, which I believe we have now actually, and I'm not speaking to other retailers, getting corporate governance actually sorted out, supporting your suppliers on supplier payment, making sure that location, and it's key, like for like, as in location by location, it is actually profitable, the same way we are actually doing, to make sure that you protect the base. The mothership has to be protected even before you actually do the expansion. And so it shouldn't be an issue of expanding. It should be a bright expansion. And maybe to just take precedence in, you need to do a site survey. You need to look at the market, how many guys it can actually serve. At times you make a mistake along the way, but at the same time you get surprises. One of our best stores is Kapsabet. And when we actually went there, it was 50-50 where it should actually be. And we got a particular perfect site next to the stage, and the locals love it, and we guys love it. I mean, it's one of the best bubbly stores. And you actually find we had an uptown store somewhere which did not really work at that particular point then, but now it's perfect. So things keep on checking. It's all about unit by unit, making sure they work. But at the same time, guys are not going to patronize you if they do not also know that you're giving them proper quality items at the right price. So making sure that we actually keep on that is very important for us.
In the studio this morning, like every morning, is Eric Latif, CT Muga, and Nduoko. Willy, as we come back, since two questions coming from our listeners on social media. The first one is, how do you identify suppliers of Naivas supermarkets, especially as you're expanding this way?
One of the key things we do is we're very particular about what we actually stock, quality and all that. In most cases, it's actually suppliers who actually reach out to us, and we actually tell everybody. Our head office on Mombasa Road, or any store, you can actually be able to go to any store, they'll actually get you in the process. But at the same time, the product has to meet a particular role within which it plays in any category. So if it's, for example, a laundry, you have to actually ask ourselves, is it an entry-level laundry? Is it a mainstream laundry soap, or is it a premium soap? And within the segment that you actually take up, so if it's premium, is it a premium entry, an entry premium product, a mainstream premium product, or a premium? And if you look at all that and the gap is actually that you're answering is not there, then at that particular point you just need to say, hey, guess what? You're just coming in to add into another person and cannibalizing into the category. You're not adding value, and that's why we really make sure that we tell guys, as we also build Kenya, buy Kenya, as you go out there to look for the best items that can actually work, you need to actually completely this, because it's no longer just about brands. It's about brands and the quality of the products that you actually have. And I'm going to talk slightly about being customer-centric here. And you need it, you've got it, comes into mind.
Right.
So Eric has this particular brand.
Did you just use that line? Okay. It's
yes,
fine.
intentionally.
You can inherit it. It's
line.
fine.
No. I'm not going to inherit it, because it's an expensive line that is actually might be actually one of the causes of actually a problem, because Eric uses a particular type of sanitizer.
Yep.
But it's only Eric who uses it. And he comes 4 times to shop with me, and every time he actually buys 1 or 2. But I have to buy them in dozens. So I bought them in dozens. It's now my time to actually pay. I pay for that one in dozens. Eric has still not completely finished buying that particular product, but now I have to pay for it. What money will I use to pay for it? I will use money from my everyday products, my milk, my bread, my everything. I start compounding my products. And that's why the 80-20 rule actually comes in. The first and foremost thing within my assortment, I have to make sure that I have everyday items that are actually completely selling. And then now, from there, we actually discuss these other extra particular other items to make sure that, for that person who is in Kangemi, has a very different need from that person in Buruburu. Yeah. And that person in Buruburu also has a very different need from that person in Waterfront. If they are all baking, they are baking differently. Yeah. But at the same time, we cannot now have the full range of what is in Waterfront being in Kangemi, or being actually in Buruburu, or in Nyali. The preference for flour is different from Kisumu. Yeah. And that's why retail is not easy. It's a detail, as actually mentioned. That retail and detail management, and not just coming in and loading items. And I'll tell you for sure, you all went to all the stores that were struggling. They still have some of the products of you need it, you've got it.
That's true.
Because going to any supermarket right now, including the current ones, we're probably having a struggle, you'll still find there's still a certain range of products, which people don't take. They'll only buy if they're buying with something else. And so that knowledge actually comes in quite handy. And we have to keep on evolving. We believe, yes, we're the market leader, so we have to show leadership as far as also assortment is concerned. But assortment, and when we're onboarding suppliers, has to be quite clear that it is solving a problem.
Okay.
So if you have to bring me new diapers right now, why are you bringing me new diapers? Okay. So what's the difference with the diapers that are currently in the market? Yeah. Or they're cheaper. So, okay, these other guys can drop their price. What and what. You have to be very, very particular. Are we going to solve a particular problem with the supplier or for our customers or not? So it's kind of diverse. But we are quite open. It's very easy to actually do it. Right now, we are really making sure we promote especially the women entrepreneurs in the country, by making sure that we give them preference when it actually comes to listing and presentation purposes.
I want to ask this question, Willy. I like the detailed processes that you follow to ensure that the business is run successfully. Now, what are the things that you would do that would trip up the business and that would guarantee that the success story gets a little tampered with? And what is it that you set in place to ensure that this doesn't happen?
Let's say first and foremost, corporate governance is a very important thing. Our expansion has to be monitored. One of the key things, of course, you're not going to be there doing short-term borrowing for investments and all that, or using supply funds to expand or something like that. That's definitely a no-no. I will also say the lack of focus on customer, and especially now just starting to add items and just bogging customers with and expanding and doing very large stores will also not make sense. Yeah. Hoping I've answered the question, yeah.
Willy, you said something about encouraging women entrepreneurs in the country to bring their product forward. Why is this? Did you see that there was a lower number of women bringing forward product, or what was the reason for that would bring about this encouragement?
We've had very many moments whereby clearly it's been heavily driven by men, heavily driven by all industrialists and all those other things. The women agenda has actually not been, and we actually say we are Kenyan. And no, they say when you actually build up and you actually support the woman, you're actually supporting the family. And when they start growing, and especially if you go into the e-commerce bubble, you will notice there are very many women entrepreneurs doing your jams, your certain banana flavor or all those things, but they don't get to do and have a platform within which to present these products. So that is actually, and our Eureka moment was when we met with the Melvin's Marsh program for women, and we could clearly see it was from a centered approach that they had very nice, training going on for women entrepreneurs, and we decided to plug into that. And that agenda for us is kind of important. We believe we will also be talking to the community, because we will not be talking to Akinyi in Kisumu, and we'll actually be talking to Njeri in Nyeri, who will be having something specific that he has already identified within that community and how people consume. Let's not forget, 60% of our customers are actually women, and we have to support that. Yeah, they know what they want more. To be honest, most of us men, including myself, when you go to the supermarket,
I have no idea.
Because I know I shop because I know the offers.
There's a list. Another question coming in from our audience is, when you open up a new store, how do you identify your hires? Do you hire locally? Is there a percentage that you've set aside and said these people must come from the local community?
Absolutely. What we actually do is we try as much as possible to actually onboard from the local community. But what we also do is we are a national supermarket, and that means you'll actually find the person who we have actually onboarded. For example, when you're actually taking up a store like Kapsabet, you will actually end up one person in Mombasa, the other person will end up in Nyeri, the other person will end up. So what we actually, and we boulder and we're now bringing the new talent also within these other communities. What happens, we also growing the needs, because now the person who had rental houses and they never had someone, they now have someone to actually take them up. They have new consumption because the guys are going to come with the family. And that is how and why people need to actually bring in investors into the stores, because they come in with other people. Those guys now will no longer just eat the way normal way. Consumption starts increasing, and now the town starts growing. That's the whole bigger picture. I'll pick guys from Mombasa, and the guys will now come in, they'll be assimilated. I remember when we opened our Garissa store, which we shut down after the unfortunate attack on the Garissa University, which was opposite. Some of the guys from Garissa found themselves in Nakuru. There was one person who was actually a Ronangala. I remember getting someone in Kitengela, and you start becoming happy, because you know what? It's not just your norm. You're creating and developing the Kenyan agenda of inclusivity, and employing from the community and taking them national.
You've now going with this big brand, which is a very lovely brand, Naivas Food Market. When we come to food market, then food security also comes in. That's food safety. Let's first of all start with the meat safety. Naivas has invested heavily on the central butchery system and ensuring that there is quality of meat. How do you ensure that what the consumer actually gets is safe and quality meat at your outlets?
A very, very good one. And that's where actually even our partners who are actually coming in and getting in proper assistance. We have an ESG team, an environmental safety team that actually completely makes sure it checks that. We have a QA team. And if I can just dwell on meat is all about the cold chain and ensuring that cold chain is actually well observed. Such that from the abattoir, you make sure that the right quality of meat we actually get only from one particular abattoir. The vets check the meat. The meat has to be drained. It gets into cold chain. We cannot receive that meat into our central butchery, which is actually not anything more than 4 degrees. And then we actually now keep it within our cold rooms, within our central butchery and all. And they are taken through a whole chain process. And finally, they exit as parts. They distributed to our stores. Within our cold chain, you'll actually notice a very beautiful trucks branded the Naivas butchery, all with cold chain enabled. And in the store, we also have cold rooms, and we also display them in the cold chain. We believe by actually maintaining that cold chain, we are actually able to protect the customer. Because at the end of the day, we have to be the ones running with the agenda of giving people good meat. And also teaching guys what good meat is all about. In fact, the more the meat stays, and especially during the wet aging, it actually even becomes more tender. So it's much better, and we have to go to the forefront of that, making sure that we are not giving guys meat that has just been slaughtered day one. All what you are going to be giving is guys who are going to be eating muscles instead of proper meat. Yeah, so we've gone really up. We have actually invested. We have gotten guys from South Africa. We've gone everywhere. We have proper meat for them. Yeah.
Willy, do I hear you to be saying that what I personally and others have believed for the longest time, that meat freshly slaughtered is actually the meat that you should eat? Are you saying that we have believed in a myth all this time?
Kabisa, you guys just play muscles. If you go to the hotels that serve you 3K, 200 grams meat, they clearly tell you that 21 days aged. Basically, let's work backwards. But for chicken, has to be the most fresh. It has to be at least 2 days from the date of slaughter, max. Yeah.
Well, Willy, Christmas is coming, and even with all of this, everybody is expectant in terms of what it is that you're going to do, and what people then can be able to get in terms of deals. We've seen in the last 2-3 months, you've been giving fantastic deals every week. So now the deal season is here with us. What can people expect, and what are your plans moving towards Christmas?
It's been one of the best times walking around our stores. Anytime you actually walk around the stores and you actually see the shoppers, we have actually been having the promo, Chrissy Bilaworis, Christina Naivas. Every day in every store, we have more than 350 girls taking 2,000, winning 2,000 bob plus and more. And above that, we also have a lot of offers. And you know, the smile that you actually see of someone just looking at the shopping and the kind of saving that you're actually giving during this particular time has been actually more than encouraging. It's a lot. We've been doing it quite heavy. You know, you're getting flat 85. We're reducing for you. Every week we've actually been having a fat and oil of deal. Next week we also, like this week, I will already just check out the grapes. Grapes that go for 3 something, we are now selling them at 230. It's been really, really encouraging. In all the categories, we have serious offers. And what I tell everyone I actually meet is, anytime you go to the aisle, check out the orange stickers. All those orange stickers are actually offers. So there are some that meet the podium, there are some that don't meet the podium because we don't have as many podiums. So on the shelf, always make sure you check on those orange stickers. Right. The orange stickers give you serious savings. So and over and above that, of course, you have your point.
Sure. Which there's been a problem with recently, Willy. But if we're going to look at Christmas now, will people be able to enjoy Christmas on a budget? Because people are going into the Christmas period, unfortunately, with a difficult year that COVID has presented, everybody's going into Christmas on a budget, having less than you would like to during this festive period. Can you guarantee that people will still be able to enjoy their Christmas with less to spend?
I assure you, we actually started the Christmas agenda in first week of November. Our mantra of Save Your Money is in there. We have offers on all key commodities, and more specific, check out even the Friday paper. We are going all out to make sure that Kenyans this time enjoy their Christmas. It's a tough time, FX issues, stockhouse supply issues by other challenges. We are working around the clock to just make sure things work for our customers, and to make sure that we are even absorbing some of those the price changes that are coming, because now, guys, the imports and all those things are kind of very expensive at the moment. The inputs for items locally manufactured, you'll actually notice, while other people are taking their prices up, we are making sure we are holding forte and staying down and keeping into our promise that Naivas will always save you money. The key headache when we actually come into the festive season is, please, we all work to just inform the market for them to actually shop early. Because there's a Kenyan way whereby last minute now, that's when we'll definitely go in, because we will not allow, guys. We'll have to
if your employer doesn't pay you till a day before Christmas, Willy, what do people do?
When you have money.
Tujaribu lakini COVID is there, so we just, and we won't break any protocols for any extra shilling.
Okay.
Every day we are putting even our own staff on the front line, and we definitely going to protect them, and by protecting them, we are protecting the public. And so if anybody who has actually been paid early and all that, and that last minute one, if we can just shop early, the better. Yeah, that is what our main thing. So that everybody enjoys, and that's why we actually started our Christmas campaign very, very early.
Right.
And also back to school. Immediately after Christmas, that particular week before 4th, just shop for your back to school then. No need of actually, we need to change tack slightly.
That's very true. Willy, as we conclude this conversation, what is it that you'd like to tell your loyal customers, and especially other areas which maybe they're hoping to see a Naivas food market opening soon? What is it that you'd like to say about your expansion, your business strategy going forward?
I would like to say, by the way, the board is actually quite keen. We really want to promote the Kenyan agenda. We are actually looking after your interest. We want to make sure that we are in every street and corner in a profitable manner, and ensuring that at the end of the day, we are also making a change in the community. We are impacting the community in a positive way, such that we can have a Kenyan story, because we currently hold that flag of the Kenyan retailer who needs to tell that story to the end, that he actually survived a hard, crazy period, made the right calls and choices, and we are actually here for the long haul. We want to be the flag that guys will actually be proud of, the same way you actually feel when you see a KQ flight when you're in Cape Town or something, and you say, hey, guess what? That's ours. You know, that pride is actually what we definitely want to
Willy, I've wondered, Naivas, where did this name come from?
So, the history of Naivas has us starting off in Elbagon and then coming in and setting shop in Naivasha. So, yes, Naivasha, and so the keyword Naivas, and that's why we really own that town. So we actually have a very long name, Naivasha Self-Service Stores. We actually changed that name around 2008, and then we went to a purple branding. We came into Eastlands, and then we opened in South B. We decided, hey, we have to upgrade.
So here you are.
Yeah, we are now. We have a food market, you know.
Now you're all that.
It's been a journey. Guess what? Go to our theater store and you feel proud of exactly what you actually have. So it's that bit that we have definitely grown from a small Kenyan brand all the way now that now we're actually having international investors on the night.
Willy, thank you very much for speaking to us, and we wish you all the best. Like you said it yourself, you're the ones now who are carrying the Kenyan flag in the modern retail scene. So we've seen what has happened to the others, and no pressure, but please
don't go anywhere.
Don't go anywhere.
I assure you we won't. By focusing on the customer and making sure every unit is profitable, we've not. We will definitely, we'll have this talk some years down the line, and we will be keeping the faith for the Kenyan flag.
All right.
No human and no brand is unlimited.
That's indeed very true. Willy Kimani, Chief Commercial Officer, Naivas Limited. Asante sana and have a good day.
Thank you very much. Asante.
Thank you.